The opulent bazaar of Al-Zahra gleamed under the relentless midday sun. Towering stalls draped in rich silks and gold-threaded tapestries radiated a luxury that seemed impenetrable. The air was thick with the scents of exotic spices, cardamom, saffron, and oud, mingling with the distant echoes of haggling merchants and the soft clinks of precious jewels. Amidst this grandeur strode the billionaire Sheikh, tall, his every movement commanding attention. Adorned in robes shimmering with gold embroidery and rare sapphires that caught the light like stars. His expression was a mask of icy control, a man who seemed untouched by the chaotic world around him. Suddenly, the tranquil illusion shattered. A sudden tug, sharp and unexpected, ripped through the finest fabric of his trousers. Gasps rippled through the crowd as he turned sharply, eyes narrowing to find the source. There she stood, a girl ragged and dust-covered, cheeks flushed with a mixture of fear and defiance. Her rough hands clutched the torn edge of his pant leg, her gaze steady and unyielding despite the piercing scrutiny of the onlookers. The billionaire Sheikh's usual calm gave way to a flicker of shock, yet no fury spilled from his lips. Instead, a silent tension filled the air, thick and vibrating. His eyes locked with hers, searching beneath her worn exterior for a meaning he could not yet grasp. Around them, the market seemed to hold its breath. The girl's voice broke the silence, soft yet firm. "I didn't mean to ruin your clothes, sir. The crowd pushed me. I had no choice." There was no plea for mercy, only raw honesty that cut through the gilded walls of his world. Heat rose to the Sheikh's cheeks, not from anger, but from an unfamiliar stir of vulnerability. His gaze softened, revealing cracks in his formidable facade. He studied her, her dirt-smudged face framed by tangled hair, eyes shining not with desperation, but with courage and dignity. Whispers spread like wildfire, eyes darting between the billionaire and the poor girl who dared to stand before him, unflinching. The once mighty trader in silks found himself rooted in place. The humiliation of torn finery, swallowed by a surge of unexpected curiosity. In that moment, the proud ruler of a vast emirate revealed an unspoken truth. Beneath the riches and power lay a man intrigued, unsettled, awake. He said quietly, voice low but clear enough to hush the murmurs, "We must mend what was torn." The crowd staggered, stunned by this departure from his famed severity. Her breath hitched, surprise flashing across her features, mixed with an ember of hope she dared not name aloud, as the sunlight danced off the shards of broken fabric and new, fragile connections formed in the shadows. The Sheikh's words lingered in the air, promising a turning tide. And before the next secret of this vast emirate is unveiled, quickly check if you're already part of our caravan of stories. Many destinies are yet to be shaped, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Leave a like if the heart of this billionaire sheikh has already intrigued you. Tell me in the comments, which city are you following this saga from, and what twist do you think awaits? Your passion for these dramas inspires us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The billionaire sheikh's invitation echoed through the stillness like a summons to an unknown fate. The crowd parted reluctantly, whispering among themselves as the ragged girl hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. her heartbeat pounding in her ears, louder than the murmurs surrounding them. He led her through the labyrinthine alleys of Al-Zahra's market, away from the glittering stalls and prying eyes. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that stretched across the cracked stone alleys like silent witnesses to their unlikely passage. Her hands trembled slightly, holding on to the torn fabric that now seemed less like a symbol of disgrace and more like a thread binding their fates. Inside the walls of his private quarters, the world transformed. Ancient tapestries lined the walls, depicting stories of desert kings and forgotten love. The scent of rosewater and sandalwood lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the harsh heat and spice of the bazaar. The billionaire Sheikh finally released his grip on the fabric, his gaze lingering on the girl's face, etched with fatigue but illuminated by an unyielding fire. "Sit," he commanded, voice low and measured, yet there was a softness beneath the authority. She obeyed, cautious but guarded. His fingers traced the torn seam with surprising gentleness, as if mending the fabric might somehow heal other unseen fractures. "What is your name?" he asked, eyes never leaving hers. "Layla," she replied, each syllable barely above a whisper, but resolute. A faint smile brushed his lips, almost imperceptible, but enough to crack his frozen facade. "Layla, you have courage to stand before me." Her gaze flickered, defiance battling with vulnerability. When your world pushes a woman to the edge, courage becomes a necessity, not a choice. The Sheikh felt the weight of her words settle around them. Like a veil. In his world of gold and power, honesty was a rare jewel, and here it was, shining raw and unpolished. He turned abruptly, his silk robe swirling around him as he strode toward a wooden chest. Lifting its lid, he revealed a stash of embroidered cloths and fine needles, the tools of a tailor, but here they carried the promise of restoration, not just of fabric, but of dignity. "Your clothes," he said, producing a pale blue robe of delicate silk. "You will wear this while you remain here." Layla stared, luxury so distant and foreign, it almost overwhelmed her pride. Yet, beneath the shock, a question smoldered in her eyes. "Why?" she asked softly. He met her gaze, unblinking. "Because no one should be judged by the clothes they wear, but by the strength they carry within. If the world outside sees you as mere rags, I intend for it to see otherwise." The words stirred something buried deep within her, a fragile seed of hope. Days passed in a blur of whispered conversations and stolen glances under the gilded ceilings of the palace. Layla found herself caught between two realities: the harshness of her past and the bewildering kindness of her present protector. The billionaire Sheikh, once an enigma wrapped in arrogance, revealed glimpses of a man burdened by shadows no wealth could erase. Late one evening, as the jasmine-scented breeze filtered through open windows, Layla caught sight of his silhouette against the moonlight, stoic, yet undeniably human. She sensed a fortress around him cracking, exposing the turmoil beneath. "What haunts you, my lord?" she dared to ask. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then he answered, voice thick with restraint, a secret, bound to my name and my power, one that could topple the empire I have built. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand with a tentative warmth. Secrets have a way of destroying what we cherish, unless we face them together. The Sheikh's eyes searched hers, vulnerability warring with instinct. Then, unexpectedly, a genuine smile broke through. Perhaps, Layla, you are the one who will teach me how to face what I have buried. Their fragile truce was shattered one morning when the court's chief advisor, a man whose smile never reached his eyes, approached with news that sent ripples through the palace halls. "There is unrest beyond the palace gates," he warned the sheikh, in a voice as cold as steel. "Rumors spread of a rival faction seeking to exploit your weakness, your softened heart." The billionaire sheikh's jaw clenched, shadows flickering in his eyes. His glance drifted to Layla, who stood silently nearby, her defiance undimmed. "Then they will learn," he whispered, "that even a man with a fortress of gold can bleed." But before he could gather his thoughts, a messenger arrived with a sealed letter, the signature unmistakable and chilling. Layla's hand trembled as she unfolded the parchment. The words sprawled across the page, cut deeper than any blade. "You do not know the truth about me, Sheikh," it read, "and when it comes to light, both our worlds will burn." His eyes darkened, the room narrowing to just the two of them, bound by secrets, threatened by shadows. Layla raised her gaze, fierce and unyielding. "Tell me the truth, and I will stand with you." He swallowed hard, the weight of his empire pressing down. "There are things I have kept hidden, things I hoped would never surface. But now, there is no choice." A sudden pounding echoed through the halls. The palace gates flung wide as armed men spilled into the courtyards, faces grim, bearing the colors of rebellion. The billionaire sheikh's hand found hers in a grip fierce and urgent. "Prepare yourself, Layla. The battle for my kingdom has begun, and with it, the fight for my soul." Her breath hitched, but her spirit held firm. Together in that moment of storm and fire, two unlikely allies faced the impossible, ready to defy fate. And as the desert winds howled beyond the walls, a silent vow was forged. Nothing, not even the darkest secrets, would keep them apart. But among the flickering shadows, a new player watched, eyes glinting with malice and a smile that promised devastation. The next move belonged to the enemy, and the game was far from over. The palace was alive with a restless energy, the echoes of armored boots on marble floors rippling through the vast corridors like a warning drumbeat. Lanterns flickered along the walls, casting long, wavering shadows that danced in silent chaos. The rebellion was no longer a whisper. It had spilled into the very heart of the empire. The billionaire sheikh stood near a grand window, his sharp silhouette framed against the burning amber sky. His gaze pierced the horizon where the desert met the tumbling dunes, eyes dark pools reflecting a storm raging within. The weight of the letter pressed into his memory, its threat tighter than any chain forged in gold. Layla's hand remained firmly clasped in his. The touch was fleeting, but electric, a lifeline tethering two worlds on the verge of unraveling. Her eyes, fierce and unyielding, met his, silently demanding that he not falter. "The guards at the gates, are they loyal?" she asked, her voice steady despite the undercurrent of urgency. He shook his head slowly. Loyalty is a fragile currency. Some will turn with the wind. Others wait for the promise of power. His jaw clenched, every muscle taut as the call to battle throbbed through his veins. This rebellion, it is more than politics. It is a reckoning. The room seemed to shrink around them. The once grand chamber, adorned with silken drapes, in deep indigos and gold leaf, now felt suffocating, a gilded cage for two souls pushed to the brink. Layla drew a breath, the aroma of sandalwood and distant roses filling her senses. And the secret, you said, haunts you. Will it help them destroy you? He met her gaze, the accustomed armor of control wavering. They wield it like a blade on a sharpened edge. If it falls into their hands, my empire, my very name, will crumble like sand. A silence thickened the air. She squeezed his hand, not as a plea, but as a pledge. We face it then, all of it, together. For a fleeting second, the billionaire sheikh allowed himself a rare glimpse of hope. The rugged defiance in Layla's eyes ignited something tender within the fortress of his heart. But the moment shattered with a sudden raucous banging on the heavy doors. The court's chief advisor barged in, his lips thin, eyes calculating, shadowed by ill intent. "My lord," the advisor intoned, voice laced with cold steel, "a messenger just arrived." The faction grows bolder. They move under cover of darkness. They know your secret. The sheikh's stare sharpened into icy steel. "Bring him here." Minutes later, a figure cloaked in midnight black was ushered into the chamber. The flicker of a dagger briefly catching the candlelight at his waist. The envoy's eyes flickered toward Layla, a glint of contempt barely masked. He unfurled a sealed scroll and bowed before the sheikh, voice low and dripping with menace. "This comes from the rival sheikh of Al-Mansur. He sends his regards and a warning. Your grip on the throne weakens with every step you take toward mercy." The billionaire sheikh's hand tightened violently around the letter until white-knuckled. His breath was steady, but his pulse thundered. "So the empire will be tested tonight," he murmured, almost to himself. Layla stepped forward, gaze unwavering. "And what of your heart?" "Mercy is a strength, not a weakness." Her words filled the chamber, a fierce contrast to the cold menace cloaking them. For the first time in weeks, a shadow of vulnerability softened the sheikh's face. He turned slowly toward her, the candlelight casting flickering highlights on his chiseled features. "I have buried that part long ago, but perhaps it is time to unearth it, before everything crumbles." The clock in the hall told the hour, each chime a harbinger of the coming storm. Outside, the desert winds whispered an eerie lullaby, carrying dust and untold secrets. Suddenly, the vast windows trembled with a distant explosion, fire blooming on the horizon like a living wound against the fading light. Screams and the clash of steel began to seep into the palace walls. The sheikh's eyes lit with fierce resolve. He moved with the swift grace of a desert panther, fingers brushing Layla's cheek, a rare, fragile caress. "Layla," he breathed, voice thick with emotion. "Tonight, we are no longer just ruler and subject. We are the last hope of this kingdom. Stand with me." She nodded, heart pounding with a mix of fear and fierce commitment. The torn fabric that once connected them now symbolized a bond forged in fire and blood. Outside, the courtyards erupted into chaos as soldiers, loyal and traitorous, clashed beneath banners torn and stained. The air was heavy with smoke, dust, and the bitter scent of betrayal. In the shadowed recesses of the palace, a figure watched silently, a silhouette swallowed by darkness, eyes gleaming with ruthless pleasure. The enemy's smile was a predatory crescent, promising devastation that no gold could buy. A note of steel entered the Sheikh's resolve as he gathered his council, the weight of legacy and love twisting deep in his chest. Yet even amid the turmoil, his gaze flickered once more to Layla, her unyielding courage a beacon amid the tempest. And then the unthinkable happened. The chamber doors burst open. Footsteps, heavy and foreign, echoed menacingly through the hall. The Sheikh's sharp eyes locked on the newcomer, a woman cloaked in shadow. Her presence both a threat and a mystery. "Your secret is no longer safe," she whispered, voice dripping with venom. "And I have come to claim what was promised to me long ago." The room fell silent, breaths drawn tight as the sands of fate shifted once more beneath their feet. Everything the billionaire Sheikh believed, everything he held dear, would be tested before then. Dawn, and in that fragile breaking moment, the true battle began, not just for a kingdom, but for the very souls entwined within its destiny. The chamber fell into heavy silence, broken only by the distant clashes echoing through the palace walls. The unexpected arrival of the shadowed woman brought a chill that seeped into the bones of everyone present. Her words, sharp and venomous, cut straight through the fragile hope that had begun to bloom between the billionaire Sheikh and Layla. He stepped forward, the power in his stature undeniable. Yet a flicker of uncertainty trembled behind his steely gaze. His voice filled the room, low and hardened like tempered steel. "Who are you to claim what was promised?" Her smile, thin and cruel, held secrets of alliances forged in darkness. "I am the rightful keeper of your past, the debt unpaid that binds you and the fate of your kingdom." She let the words hang in the air, heavy as desert heat. Layla's eyes flared with defiance. "We are no longer prisoners of promises made in shadows. Whatever your claim, it ends here with us." But the woman merely laughed, a chilling sound that seemed to echo off the marble walls. "You have no idea what lies beneath your prince's golden throne." Her gaze shifted to the Sheikh, piercing, knowing. "Soon, all will be revealed, and power will shift like shifting sands. Will you survive the truths buried so deep?" The Sheikh closed his eyes for a moment, breath steadying as centuries of burden pressed on his soul. "I will endure," he said finally, voice trembling but resolute. "For this empire, for its people, and for the woman who stands by my side." Layla's hand found his again, their fingers intertwining, a silent vow in the raging storm. Between them, a fragile strength blossomed, fragile yet unyielding. Outside, the distant sounds of battle grew louder, the night erupting into chaos. The palace, once a sanctuary of power and luxury, transformed into a battleground of loyalty and betrayal. The shadowed woman stepped closer, folding a sealed envelope with careful precision. "Within this," she hissed, "lies the proof that will shatter your world." The sheikh glanced at the letter, its seal an ominous black, stark against the gold of his desk. The weight of the unknown pressed heavily, a promise of ruin disguised as paper. With a swift motion, he broke the seal and unfolded the parchment. His eyes scanned the cryptic script, the seal's dark ink revealing accusations. So deep, they threatened to consume him. "This," he murmured, voice raw with pain and disbelief. "This changes everything." Layla leaned forward, breath held, heart pounding in time with the distant drumbeat of conflict outside. "What is it?" He hesitated, gaze falling to the floor. "A secret I kept hidden from even my closest allies, a betrayal not just of blood, but of the very soul of my house." The atmosphere thickened, the room closing in like the desert night, swallowing the stars. Hope flickered, but refused to extinguish, not while they faced this together. Suddenly, the doors burst open once more. A cadre of palace guards entered, faces grim and eyes hard. The leader stepped forward, voice laced with authority and warning. "My lord, the rebel faction has infiltrated the outer courtyard. They are advancing swiftly." The sheikh's jaw tightened, a surge of fierce protectiveness igniting deep within. "Then we face them," he declared. "No fortress is impregnable, not even one built on gold and secrecy." His gaze darted between Layla and the approaching threat. In her he found both solace and strength, a fierce spirit that challenged his cold exterior and kindled a fire he thought long dead. Layla's voice was steady, unwavering. "Whatever comes, we fight as one." He nodded, a rare softness breaking through. "Tonight, the kingdom's fate, and ours, hangs in delicate balance." Outside, the palace gates trembled under the weight of the rebellion's advance. The desert winds carried whispers of revolt and promise, of worlds about to collide. The shadowed woman's eyes gleamed with dark satisfaction as she retreated into the depths of the palace, a storm of schemes unfurling behind her calm facade. And deep within the heart of the palace, the billionaire sheikh clutched the letter tightly, the inked words burning into his skin like a brand. He turned to Layla, his voice a fierce whisper that trembled with a mixture of dread and determination. "They know the secret of my lineage, the truth that could unravel everything I have built. And if it falls into the wrong hands..." Before he could finish, a sudden burst of flame erupted near the grand hall. The sound of shattering glass and frantic cries pierced the tense air. The palace was under siege, not just by enemies at the gates, but by shadows from within. Layla's eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. "Then we protect it together." The sheikh's fingers brushed her cheek, a silent pledge forged in the chaos. But as the fire spread and the night darkened, a new threat moved silently, unseen. A whisper slipped through the halls, one name spoken with venom and longing, a name that promised to change everything. In the lingering smoke and embers, the future of the empire and their hearts hung by a thread. And the next move belonged to a ghost from the past, one who held the key to devastation or salvation. The air inside the grand chamber was suffocating, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths and the acrid scent of burning incense mingling with distant smoke. The shadowed woman's presence was a dark stain on the opulent walls, her cold eyes glinting like obsidian, promising ruin wrapped in silk. The billionaire Sheikh's grip tightened around Layla's hand, every sinew in his body taut with battle-ready anticipation. His voice, low but laced with iron, broke through the charged silence. "Speak your claim. What debts do you seek to collect?" Her laugh was a razor's edge slicing through the tension. "Everything you buried in the sands, everything you thought forgotten. Your past is not yours alone to keep. It belongs to the blood that thirsts for revenge, and the shadows that conspire within your palace." Layla's eyes flared with unyielding fire as she stepped forward, standing tall beside the sheikh. "Your secrets cannot chain us. They will not break us." For a heartbeat, the billionaire sheikh was torn between fury and doubt. The years of authority, forged through power, now threatened to crumble beneath unseen forces. Yet, as he looked at Layla, the worn girl turned steadfast ally. A flicker of something fragile and fierce blazed within him. The woman's gaze hardened. Soon, the truth will unravel, and when it does, those who claim loyalty will reveal their true faces. A sudden tremor shook the chamber, a warning from the chaos unraveling beyond the palace gates. The distant roar of battle crescendoed to a grim chorus. The war had arrived, not just for land and crown, but for hearts and shadows. He released Layla's hand, only to reach into the folds of his robe, pulling forth an ancient dagger, its hilt adorned with sapphire and gold. The glint caught the candlelight like a star rekindled in a dark sky. "This palace, my kingdom, my people," he said, voice resolute, "will not fall to whispers and shadows." Turning sharply, he cast a commanding glance around the room. "Prepare the guards. Every loyal soul must stand ready." His gaze then settled, burning and unyielding, on the shadowed woman. "And you, know this, the debts you seek will be paid in blood." The woman smirked, unshaken. "Blood is the currency of this realm, Sheikh, and yours is overdrafted." The room's tension thickened like desert heat, the air brittle with danger and hope intertwined. Layla's breath caught as she watched the man she was beginning to see beyond the trappings of power. A man who bore a fortress of loneliness behind that fierce mask. The sheikh's voice softened for a fraction, a quiet echo meant only for her. "I have done terrible things to protect this empire, and terrible things to keep my own heart safe." Layla's hand brushed his arm in a fleeting, tender gesture. No fortress is made stronger by stones alone. Sometimes, the softest touch can hold the mightiest walls from falling. He exhaled slowly, the weight of centuries pressing on his shoulders. Yet, for the first time, that weight felt less like a burden and more like a fragile hope. Outside, the palace trembled under the storm of steel and fire. The battle for the kingdom's soul raged not only in the courtyards and throne room, but in the veins of two unlikely allies bound by fate. Suddenly, A commotion stirred near the side entrance. A masked figure burst through the shadows, breath ragged, eyes wild. "My lord, there is movement unaccounted for. Betrayers within your trusted guards." The Sheikh's eyes sharpened, the cold fire of command arcing anew. "Find them, root out these traitors. No darkness will steal what we have fought to build." Layla moved closer, voice steady, yet tinged with urgency. "If your enemies wield secrets as weapons, then truth must be our shield." He nodded slowly, the storm behind. His gaze now tempered with a newfound clarity, forged through trust and confession. "I will face what I've hidden, not alone." Their eyes met, an unspoken promise in their depths. Two souls tremulous but unbroken, rising as one in the heartbeat before the storm. A servant hurried in, whispering urgently, "My lord, a messenger from the dunes approaches. His message comes with terror and a warning that will shatter the fragile peace." The Sheikh's jaw clenched. "Bring him to me immediately." Alone for a moment, Layla's heart pounded wildly, caught between fear and fierce resolve. She knew this night would either forge their bond into unbreakable steel or shatter it into dust. The doors creaked open, and a tall man stepped inside, his cloak dusty from travel, eyes cold as the desert night. He unrolled a battered scroll, voice grim as. He spoke, "From the sands beyond Al-Zahra, a new claim arises, that the Sheikh's bloodline is tainted by betrayal so deep it stains the very throne." The Sheikh's hand trembled as he took the paper. The words burned like acid, each revelation a jagged knife cutting into the foundations of his empire. "Betrayal," he whispered, "not from enemies without, but from those who stand beside me." Layla's fingers curled into fists. "Then it is time to decide who is worthy of your trust." Before the Sheikh could respond, a sudden explosion rocked the palace walls. Flames licked the edges of the grand hall, smoke curling into the ornate ceilings. The distant cries of soldiers and civilians alike echoed the collapse of order. Through the haze, the shadowed woman's sinister laugh floated back like a curse unanswered. The Sheikh's eyes blazed with unyielding fire as he drew Layla close. "Tonight, every secret, every pledge, every breath will be tested. We stand on the edge of ruin and salvation." Her gaze never wavered. "And I will not let you fall alone." The room shuddered again, a dark promise in the chaos. Outside, as the desert winds howled through shattered gates, a lone figure disappeared into the night, carrying a secret that would tear their world apart. The true fight for the throne had only just begun. The clash of steel and the roar of shattered glass echoed through the palace like a terrible storm unleashed. Flames licked the edges of the grand hall, casting flickering shadows that twisted and danced upon the walls, threatening to consume centuries of history beneath their cruel embrace. The air was thick with smoke, sharp and choking, as fear and fury battled silently in every heart present. The billionaire Sheikh stood tall amidst the chaos, his dark eyes blazing with unyielding fire. His hand, steady yet fierce, gripped Layla's, an anchor amid the raging tempest. The slightest touch from her sent a tremor through his hardened soul, a fragile warmth igniting beneath the weight of endless burdens. Tonight, gold and power were no shields. Only trust and courage would protect them. Behind him, loyal guards moved with urgent precision, a blur of gleaming armor and whispered orders. Yet, betrayal lingered like a poisoned blade in the shadows. The whispered secrets unearthed, the unspoken threats. Everything threatened to unravel at the seams. And the Sheikh knew all too well that the enemy was not only outside the palace walls, but creeping from within. His jaw clenched as the memory of the black sealed letter burned fresh in his mind. The accusation writ in ink sharper than any dagger. A lineage tainted, a hidden betrayal that could dissolve his empire faster than brigands at the gates. The weight of unseen sins made his shoulders heavy, but his resolve hardened like the desert stone. Layla's gaze locked with his, fierce and unwavering. "We'll survive this. Together," she vowed, her voice steady despite the trembling fires around them. He studied her. Once a girl veiled in rags and dust, now transformed into a pillar of strength beside him. Even in the chaos, her spirit shone like a rare gem, its light cutting through the darkness, threatening to envelop them both. Suddenly, the chamber doors exploded inward with a violent crash. Figures swarmed the threshold, their faces a cruel mask of determination and malice. Among them, the shadowed woman, the ghost from his past who had haunted his every step, glided forward, her smile deadly and knowing. "You should have paid your debts long ago, Sheikh," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "But now the reckoning is at hand. The empire you built on secrets will crumble like sand." Without hesitation, the Sheikh stepped forward, the ancient dagger gleaming in his grasp. His voice, sharp and low, cut through the clamor. "You threaten my kingdom and the woman I choose to protect. Either face me here, or unleash the chaos you so desperately thirst for." Her eyes flickered with amusement. "Oh, I have allies you cannot imagine. Within these walls and beyond, the truth you buried will surface, and everything you hold dear will burn." Their words collided, thick with bitterness and unspoken histories. The room pulsed with electric tension as the Sheikh moved closer to Layla, shielding her with a fierce protectiveness born of trust and longing. Amid the roaring flames, his hand brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. A simple gesture, heavy with promise. A silent confession. In this maelstrom, she was his anchor, his chosen force against the gathering darkness. But before solace could settle even briefly, a sudden scream pierced the cacophony, a desperate cry from the throne room. They rushed forward, dashing through hallways lined with silk and gold, the scent of burnt sandalwood replaced by cold dread. Outside the chambers, a trusted guard lay crumpled, a dagger thrust deep into his side, betrayal etched onto his pallid face. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, fury and heartache entwined. "Traitors walk among us," he growled, voice grinding like stones. "Root them out." No mercy. Layla's breath hitched, then steadied. The enemies we know can be faced, but those hidden beneath loyalty's mask are our true peril. He nodded solemnly, the heavy crown of leadership pressing down once more. Every shadow must be brought into the light. For this empire, for us. A sudden knock startled them both. The air grew colder still. A messenger appeared, breath ragged, eyes wide with urgent fear, unfolding another scroll sealed in deep crimson. He handed it to the sheikh with trembling hands. The black ink burned with accusations, names of those closest to the sheikh, implicated in conspiracies that could shatter his reign. The betrayal was no longer a whisper, but a thunderclap. Layla's grip tightened, her fingers digging into his palm with fierce urgency. We stand on the edge, but I will not falter. Will you? His gaze softened momentarily, a flicker of vulnerability threatening his cold mask. If I fall with honor. But today, I will fight, not only for the throne, but for the woman who redefined my world. In a swift motion, the sheikh swept open a secret door concealed behind heavy tapestries. Beyond was a hidden chamber, walls lined with ancient scrolls and weapons, the air scented with musk and resolve. "This is where the real war begins," he said, his voice low but resolute. "Here, in the shadows and whispers, we will forge our salvation." Layla stepped beside him, her eyes glowing with determination. No secret, no lie, no enemy will break us. As they prepared to confront the gathering storm, a faint sound drifted through the thickened air. A soft, haunting melody played on a distant oud, carrying with it a promise and a warning. Outside, the desert night held its breath, the sands whispering of destinies yet unwritten. But inside the palace, where gold and blood intermingled, a cold smile curled on the lips of the shadowed woman. The true price of power was about to be paid, and the sheikh's darkest secret would soon walk into the light. The palace seemed to tremble with every heartbeat, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows that twined with the smoke seeping beneath the tall doors. The once proud sanctuary now echoed with whispered fears and the weight of secrets clawing their way to the surface. The billionaire sheikh stood firmly, statuesque against the carved marble pillars, his gaze sharp and stormy, never leaving the shadowed woman who had invaded his sanctum. Yet beneath the iron cloak of authority, a turbulent sea churned, fear, anger, and something deep and fragile, trust. Layla's steady grip clenched his hand, anchoring him amidst the chaos swirling like desert sandstorms outside the walls. Her eyes, fierce with defiance yet glimmering with hope, held his steady, daring him to crumble but refusing to let him fall. The shadowed woman's voice, silky and venomous, curled through the chamber. "You think you hold the power, sheikh, but your past is a cage, and I am the key that unlocks it. Your kingdom's foundation cracks beneath you." His lips pressed into a hard line, but his voice rang with steel and unwavering command. "Speak plainly. What is this debt you claim?" She smiled then, cruel, triumphant. "A promise made in blood long ago, forgotten by you, but remembered by those who thirst for retribution. Your empire was built on lies, and soon it will crumble under their weight." Layla stepped forward, the flame of her courage refusing to be snuffed. "Our fate is not dictated by shadows. We are no longer prisoners of your grudges." Her voice strengthened, ringing through the tense air. Whatever truths you clutch, they will not break us. The Sheikh's chest heaved subtly, torn between the furious war within and the unyielding loyalty he sensed radiating from Layla. His world, bounded by opulence and veiled threats, shifted subtly, an unseen fracture widening in his heart. A sharp crack from the distant courtyard tore through the stillness, a signal of the battle relentlessly pressing against their fortress. The sound drowned the chamber in an eerie stillness, before the distant clash of steel and cries rose anew. The Sheikh's eyes darkened, every muscle taut like a bowstring ready to snap. Prepare the guards. Every blade, every soul loyal to this throne must stand. His gaze never left the intruder before him. And you, say your piece. The reckoning will be swift. The woman's smile sharpened into a blade. They hunger for the truth, and it will be served cold, Sheikh. No mercy will save you from the reckoning at hand. Without warning, the heavy doors swung open. Several palace guards entered, their armor dented, faces etched with exhaustion and grim resolve. The leader approached, bowing his head. My lord, traitors have been found among the ranks. They move like serpents in the grass, waiting to strike. The Sheikh's hand clenched tighter on the ancient dagger hidden beneath his robe, its sapphire pommel glinting with deadly promise. Root them out. No shadow will linger while I breathe. Layla's breath was steady, though her muscles tensed. A kingdom attacked within is harder to shield. The enemy is not only at your gates, but in the very walls you built. He nodded, eyes shadowed with unspoken pain. Trust, once broken, is the hardest fortress to rebuild. Their gazes locked in a silent pact. Two warriors bound not only by circumstance, but by something raw and new. A fragile hope carving a pathway through ruin. Suddenly, a commotion at a side corridor flared into urgent voices. A masked figure lurched into the chamber, breath ragged, eyes wild with terror. My lord, more conspirators, trusted guards conspire with the rebels. They plan to seize the throne tonight. The Sheikh's jaw clenched so tightly the veins pulsed beneath his skin. Find them. His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. I want their treachery exposed before dawn. Layla moved. Closer, determination blazing. Then truth must be our first weapon. Secrets wielded against us only carry power if we let them. His lips curved in a fleeting, grim smile. Then we will cut through the lies, together. The air thickened like dusk settling over the dunes as a messenger hurried in, dust from the desert still clinging to his cloak. With trembling hands, he extended another scroll, sealed in crimson wax. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, shadows curling beneath them. He broke the seal and unfolded the parchment. Each word etched a vicious blow. Names of confidants entwined with whispers of conspiracy, treachery born of greed and old grudges. Betrayal sharper than any blade, he murmured, voice hoarse. Not from the desert sands, but from shadows within. Layla's fingers gripped his palm, her voice steady yet fierce. Then we must decide who truly fights beside us, and who waits for our fall. Suddenly, a violent explosion shattered the chamber's heavy serenity. Flames surged near the grand hall, the acrid smoke turning the ornate ceilings into a haze of despair. The cries of soldiers and courtiers alike merged into a terrifying symphony of chaos. Amidst the inferno, the shadowed woman's sinister laugh echoed like a curse, weaving through the smoke and fear. Her triumph a dagger in the heart of the palace. The Sheikh's eyes blazed with iron resolve. He lowered his dagger and drew Layla near, voice fierce and strained. Tonight, every secret, every vow, every breath will be tested. We stand at the edge, on the cusp of ruin or salvation. Her gaze never wavered, radiating unbreakable strength. I will not let you fall alone. The walls trembled under the assault, the flames devouring golden tapestries as the desert winds howled like banshees beyond shattered gates. Then the unthinkable. A figure emerged from the smoke and shadows, moving swiftly, unseen by guards distracted by the chaos. Hands steady, but heart pounding, the stranger pressed a heavy hand against the Sheikh's private scroll. A sealed envelope, marked with an unfamiliar crest. With a cruel smile, the shadowed woman turned her back on the burning chamber, whispering venom that lingered long after her footsteps faded into the night. Soon, your empire will fall, and with it, everything you thought untouchable. The billionaire Sheikh's dark eyes burned with a fire born of desperation and unyielding will. Turning to Layla, voice barely more than a vow, he said, "This war is far from over, and the true enemy walks within." Outside, the desert night swallowed the palace whole, the fate of kingdom and hearts teetering on a knife's edge, waiting for dawn's merciless light. The heavy curtains barely muffled the sounds creeping through the palace walls. Shouts, clashing steel, the rattling of armor, mixing with the acrid taste of smoke, curling inside the once sacred halls. The billionaire Sheikh stood stoic near the ornate window, its stained glass fractured by the distant firelight. Amber flames licked the sky beyond, casting erratic shadows over his chiseled face. Every muscle taut, every breath measured, he held Layla's hand with unwavering grip, a fragile lifeline amid the encroaching chaos. She met his gaze, eyes burning with a fierce resolve that matched the storm raging outside. The subtle quiver in her jaw betrayed the weight pressing upon her, yet her spirit refused to falter. They were no longer mere ruler and servant, no longer prisoner and protector. In these final hours, their fates were entwined, two swords locked in the same battle. "The rebellion grows bolder," the Sheikh whispered, voice hoarse but steady. "Traitors hide behind smiles, their daggers poised to strike from within." He released her hand, stepping onto the marble floor with the assured step of a desert lion stalking prey. "We cannot trust even those sworn to defend these walls." Layla followed silently, her every sense heightened. The scent of sandalwood, mingled now with smoke and blood, clung to the air like a cruel reminder of what was at stake. Servants and guards whipped past them, faces pale, but eyes burning with loyalty. Yet something darker lurked in the corners, unseen but felt, a betrayal lurking beneath the gold and silk. They reached the inner chamber, the war room, where maps and ancient scrolls lay spread on a table, carved from dark ebony. Swords leaned against tapestried walls, their finely wrought handles catching the flicker of torchlight. The Sheikh's fingers brushed over a familiar dagger, resting there, its blue sapphires glinting faintly. His voice softened, a shade of vulnerability creeping through the hard edge. There is a secret, one I thought buried deep enough to never see the light. He glanced toward Layla, the steel in his gaze melting into something raw and uncertain. It is the key to the rebellion's strength and my greatest fear. Layla's breath hitched. Then we face it, she said firmly. Together. Secrets buried in shadows lose their power when brought into the sun. He nodded, a glimmer of hope stirring within his guarded heart. You've changed me, Layla. The weight of centuries pressed upon him. Yet, beside this woman clothed in dust and courage, he felt a new kind of strength, a flicker of life, where before there had only been ice. Before he could explain further, a whisper slid through the door, a herald of fresh danger. The shadowed woman stepped into the chamber, her presence cold and deliberate, like a chill descending upon a summer night. Still clinging to hope, she sneered, eyes sparking with malice. Your empire is a house of cards, Sheikh, and tonight I will scatter the pieces across the sands. The Sheikh's jaw clenched. What is it you want? What price do you demand? Her smile curled, cruel and knowing. You promised, and debts must be paid, no matter who bleeds for them. She raised a sealed scroll, the wax dark as midnight. Within this lies the proof, the truth that will unravel your throne. Layla stepped forward, voice steady and fierce. We will not be weakened by threats or lies. Whatever you hide, we will stand firm. The woman's eyes flickered to Layla, leer mingling with grudging respect. Brave words for one so far beneath his station. But stations can shift, and tonight the Sheikh will learn how fragile his empire truly is. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber, glass shattering into glittering rain. The walls trembled as the flames from the courtyard crept closer, devouring silks and secrets alike. Smoke twisted thick and suffocating, filling mouths and lungs with its bitter kiss. The Sheikh caught Layla's chin, his fingers gentle but commanding. Hold on to me. His voice was a low growl, desperation battling with resolve. We will fight through this, no matter the cost. Her heart thundered in response, fierce and unwavering. I'm not leaving your side. The palace doors burst open, revealing a battalion of rebels cloaked in shadow and steel. The clamor of battle grew louder, echoing through every corridor and chamber. Allies and enemies blurred beneath the crush of war, trust dissolving as rapidly as the golden light fading from their fortress. Among the invaders, a figure slipped silently, a ghost in the chaos. Cloaked and hooded, their gaze locked onto the Sheikh's private desk where the scroll lay open and waiting. The shadowed woman followed, moving with lethal grace. Her smile was a blade sharper than any sword. Your secrets will be unveiled at dawn, Sheikh, and with them, all that you hold dear will burn. In the flickering light, the Sheikh's expression hardened, pain flaring, then crystallizing into unbreakable will. We rise or fall as one. He murmured to Layla, voice wrought with emotion. Tonight is not just a battle for a kingdom. It is a fight for our souls, for everything we dare to believe in. Her hand found his again, fingers lacing tightly, an unspoken vow etched between them. In the shifting shadows, hope and despair twined like twin serpents. Then, from beneath the chaos, a single truth whispered forth, one that would shatter their fragile alliance and set their destinies ablaze. A name, spoken once. Once too many. The room cooled, as if frozen by an unseen breath. The Sheikh's gaze snapped toward the looming silhouette at the doorway, an unexpected figure whose face was etched with pain and resolve. And in that suspended moment, time cracked open. The true enemy revealed not in fire or steel, but in the echo of a wounded heart, and a betrayal far more devastating than any sword. The whispered name left hanging between them was a promise of ruin or redemption. The battle for the Empire's soul and their hearts had only just begun. The heavy doors of the Grand Chamber had barely closed behind the retreating shadowed woman when an unexpected calm washed over the room. The fierce echoes of battle faded to distant murmurs, as if the Empire itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The Billionaire Sheikh stood near the fractured stained glass window, his silhouette carved by the rising moonlight, its fragile rays painting his face with a tender glow he had long denied himself. Every fiber of his being was taut with the burden of secrets, loss, and love, yet in Layla's steady gaze, he found a sanctuary. He lowered the ancient letter, its black seal now broken, but the wounds it carried still fresh in his mind. The chilling accusations of betrayal and treachery that threatened to unravel his legacy lay bare. But so did a new truth, one forged not from bloodlines or power, but from the resolute strength of those who choose to stand by his side. Layla's hand slipped into his, fingers intertwining in a silent reaffirmation of an unbreakable bond. She no longer wore the dust of the bazaar. Beneath the soft silk robe gifted by the Sheikh, her courage shone brighter than any jewel. "We have faced enemies from without and within," he said quietly, voice rough with exhaustion and renewed determination. "But never before have I known a strength like yours, one that challenges the darkness with unwavering light." Her eyes shimmered in the candlelight, reflecting the fire smoldering outside, yet inside her heart a fierce calm had settled. Our enemies sought to shatter us through secrets and lies, but secrets are only as powerful as the fear we give them. I choose to stand with truth and with you. For the first time in many long months, the Sheikh allowed himself a breath unburdened by the realm's shadows. The weight of the letter, the betrayals whispered through gilded halls, could no longer imprison him. Together, they were architects of a new legacy, one built on honesty, redemption, and love's unyielding grace. Outside, the distant fires began to wane as loyal troops reclaimed the palace's outer walls. The melodies of rebellion's fury softened into echoes lost against the desert's vast silence. The dawn promised fresh beginnings. He stepped forward, sweeping aside tattered tapestries, revealing the hidden chamber beneath the throne room. Here, relics of his ancestors and maps of the desert lay preserved, a canvas for choice and change. The palace had been a fortress of marble and gold, but now it was a home, their home. "Let this chamber bear witness," the Sheikh declared, "to the end of old grudges and the rise of a united future. Layla nodded, a small smile curving her lips, softening the shadows etched deep by trials endured. A future where we write the story, together, one where no shadow holds dominion. The weeks that followed were marked by quiet rebuilding, not merely of stone and silk, but of hearts once fractured by doubt and pain. The court, weary yet hopeful, watched as the Sheikh's decree dismantled treacheries, inviting former foes to swear allegiance anew. The shadowed woman's web unraveled and whispered disgrace, her allies either banished or given a choice to embrace the light or the darkness. In this renewal, the Sheikh found humility and courage to reveal his greatest secret. His lineage, once tainted by betrayal, was not a chain, but a call to rise above history's weight. He shared the truth with his people, not as a ruler commanding obedience, but as a man bearing his soul, inviting forgiveness and loyalty. Layla's presence was his steady compass through this transformation. Together, they opened the palace doors wide, welcoming voices from every corner of Al-Zahra, even those once silenced by fear. Their wedding day dawned like a desert rose, blooming after the storm, radiant, delicate, and bursting with promise. The sun cast warm hues over jasmine-scented courtyards, alive with laughter and joyous tears. Dignitaries and common folk alike gathered, united in celebration of not only a union, but a new era. The billionaire sheikh, garbed in royal silks, threaded with threads of humble grace, found his eyes never leaving Layla. Her radiant smile, unbroken by hardship, was the beacon that had guided him from shadows into light. As they exchanged vows beneath the sky's endless expanse, the murmurs of the past gave way to a harmonious chorus of hope. The empire witnessed a rare moment, where power bowed graciously to love, and where forgiveness softened the iron grip of legacy. Later, in a quiet garden, blooming with delicate night flowers, the couple stood side by side. The desert breeze gently stirred the delicate petals, and the first stars of evening shimmered like promises kept. Layla glanced at the sheikh, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "We endured battles that could have torn us apart," she whispered. "Yet here we stand, stronger, together." He turned, eyes reflecting the tender light of the moon. "You taught me that even the mightiest walls can be held together by the softest touch. With you, I am whole." Their lips met in a kiss that sealed not only their love, but the dawn of peace within the kingdom and their souls. Far beyond the palace walls, the sun rose slowly over the desert horizon. Golden light spilled across the dunes, illuminating a world reborn. The saga of the billionaire sheikh and Layla was no longer one of secrets and shadows, but of a future radiant with hope, where love conquered all. And in that warm, awakening light, a promise was etched. The hardest battles had forged the strongest hearts, forever entwined beneath the endless sky.